Why the buttery hell am I inside in the studio in full snowboarding gear? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. I am doing a big magazine feature for CNET about the best in snow sports tech. Now, in order to do a big magazine feature, we need big magazine-worthy photos. So I have to do some self-portraits of myself in all of the gear that I'm using. First of all, I need to do a bit of setup. The setup is pretty straightforward. I'm shooting on a seamless white sweep of paper to get a nice clean shot of me in my gear, and I'm keeping things very simple with an easy 2-light setup. This one here with the reflector dish on the front, this is just to light the background. Without this light, you just get sort of a greyish background, or there'll be too many shadows from me. What's lighting me is this light here with the big softbox on. That's it. 2 lights, and I'm hoping that's going to be enough to light me, despite the fact that I'm wearing all black, against a white background. So when I'm shooting in studio, the first thing I want to do is make sure that only the light that I have put into the scene appears on camera. That means setting the camera up in a way that kills all of the ambient light. All of these overhead lights, all of the light that's in here naturally is not going to affect my image. Now to do that, it's just a case of using the settings properly. In this instance, I'm using an aperture of f8 and I'm using a shutter speed of 160th with an ISO of 100. So that means if we take a photo without any of my flashes turned on, quick snap, as you'll see, well, no card in camera, but the frame is completely black. So I know now that none of the ambient studio lights in here is going to be affecting my shot. To do a self-portrait, of course, I need to actually make sure I can see myself in front of the camera. So I'm going to be using the Wi-Fi tethering mode on the 6D. So here we go into the menus and we go to Wi-Fi, go to enable, that'll turn Wi-Fi on, and I do the rest on my phone. Okay, so to do this, you go into the settings on your phone, you find the Wi-Fi for your camera, which in this instance is JJJ, because why wouldn't I name my camera a stupid thing? Hit it and then wait for it to connect, which it has now done. And go back and I go to the EOS remote app. Blah, 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 yeah, I know that. Connection established with camera Canon EOS 6D. Hit remote shooting. This is not a very good app, frankly. It doesn't work quickly, but there we go. Now you can see that it's there, it's on. You can tap settings and I can see here that again, my shutter speed 160, aperture of 8, ISO 100. So it looks like I'm ready to go. I can fire a frame. Yeah, and as we see, it is completely black, which is exactly what I want. So one of the problems I have found now I'm all in my gear is that when I'm wearing the gloves, I can't control my phone and use it as a remote shutter as I was doing. So instead, I've had to set my camera to a 10-second timer, and I'm basically running back and forth like an imbecile, taking a shot, running onto the stage, waiting until it's taken. This is not the easiest way of doing photos. It's time like this that you really do need an assistant, or at least another person who can just come and press a shutter button for me. I'm also really, really hot. It's a hot studio. I'm under the lights and I'm wearing full snowboarding gear, salopettes, boots, a whole lot. Give it a quick. Eventually, running back and forth using the timer became way too big of a pain in the arse, so I roped in the help of fellow photographer and CBS colleague Homie. With him firing the shutter, we could rattle off poses time and time again. Hey! When I was happy I'd got the shot I wanted, it was time to head into Photoshop. Okay, so here's my main image I've imported into Lightroom. And straight away, there's a few immediate fixes that I can do to make this better. Of course, number one is cropping in and making me a little bit more central. Now, I don't want to crop too much. This is going to be used in the magazine, so I want to make sure there's plenty of negative space left around me for text or other images. But of course, this is on white, so it would be very, very easy to just extend that white as much as is needed. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, first of all, white balance. We can do that quite easily. We'll just click the white balance eyedropper, click there. As you can see, everything looks a lot more neutral on the background. I actually think it's a little bit too yellow, so I'm going to drop that just a touch. So I think that already looks a lot better, and that is pretty much all I want to do in Lightroom, because most of the work on this photo is going to be done in Photoshop. So go edit in, Photoshop 2018. Okay, here we are in Photoshop, and the first thing I will always do is duplicate that background layer, so all of my work gets done on a new layer or above, and I can always go back to that original background if I want to undo any of my changes. Now, a couple of obvious things. Down here, we've got a little bit of a light stand. We can get rid of that very easily just by using the clone stamp tool. Let's make a little bigger size, something like that is fine. We press Option on a Mac, click to select a white area, and then we can literally just paint over where that light stand has been and remove it. Other thing I want to do is that you can see that in some parts of the background is a little bit darker, a little bit shadowy, so we've got these different tones going on around me. Now, because I want pure white, it's actually very easy to get rid of this. So to do this, what I'm going to use is actually just the magic wand tool. Dead simple. I've got it set so that every extra click will add to the selection, and I'm literally just going to click around the frame, selecting these different areas. Have a tolerance of 10, so it doesn't do everything in one go. I want to be able to have at least a little bit of control, and I just click around and fill in some of these areas here. Because I'm shooting myself wearing black clothes on a white background, it's very, very easy for Photoshop to tell exactly where those boundaries are. So it does a really, really good job if we look in all around the edges of the coat, all the way down here. There are very, very few errors at all, and so I'm pretty confident that all I need to do at this point is go Edit, Fill with white, click OK, and that immediately has smoothed out all of those shady areas around the frame. And already we're looking a lot better. If we turn on these two layers on and off, we can see that it's done a very, very good job. Now, crucially, down here at my feet, I don't want to get rid of all the shadows. I want to keep some of that detail in, because it's those shadows that keep me anchored to the ground. So this looks like I'm actually here having a photo taken rather than just hovering in the air. Now, of course, if the magazine team wanted to put me into a new scene, if they wanted to take me out of this white and put me on, say, a mountaintop, then they would probably create new shadows again to make it look like I'm really there. Okay, so one of the things I would like to do, purely because of vanity, is make myself a little bit slimmer in this photo. I don't really love the way that the coat bulges out a little bit around the stomach region. And because it's my photo of myself, I can do that and I don't care. So I've selected that with the lasso, and then I press Command J. That puts it on a new layer, and I'm going to go up to Filter, and I'm going to go to Liquify. So as you can see, I've brought up the Liquify tool, and it's only showing me the small selection that I had made, not the entire image. So I know that I'm only going to be affecting this layer. Now I've got the forward warp tool active here, and I've got quite a big brush size because I want to make sure that I'm making large changes rather than tiny little smears. So all I do is basically click and gently push in that zip to what I think should look a little bit better. If I click OK, it's going to take me back. And now what we can do, because we've got that on a separate layer, I can turn that layer on and off. And as you can see, it's only a small change, but it's just bringing in that zip line ever so slightly, which I think makes me look a little bit more slim. And that's a good thing. So I think this image is already starting to look a lot better, but one of the other things I want to do is just tone down some of the orange in my face. After the white balance shifts that we made in Lightroom, I think I look a little bit too orange. I was probably also a bit red in the face from the heat of the clothes and the lights. So it's easy to do. I'm going to go to Adjustments, and I'm going to bring up a Hue and Saturation adjustment. I'm going to change it from Master to Reds, because red, of course, is where most of that colour is lying, and I can just bring down the saturation. If I bring it down completely, then I go pretty grey in the face, which doesn't look good. So I'm just going to bring it down to probably about -10-ish.
give or take, which I think gives a much more natural tone. If we turn that on and off, again, it's not a huge change, but it's just enough to make me look a little bit more natural. Okay, if we go back and have a look at the background and then our new layer, we can see that the changes we've made, small though they are, make this look like a much more polished image. The last thing I want to do though is just go around and check to see if there are any cleanups that I need to do. I did notice before that there are a couple of spots on the board of dust and general dirt, and for that it's very easy. I'm just going to use a spot healing brush tool over here. That's J as a quick command on the keyboard, and all you need to do is literally click, select the right layer of course. In fact, what I can do now, I'm happy with all this, I'm just going to merge those down into the background layer, and I just click on these spots of dust and I can clean them up. Now this is the sort of thing that I do on all of my product photography, in particular when I'm shooting anything shiny, because any of these spots of dust show up incredibly easy. It can be a long and tedious process, so let's speed through this and then we'll take a look at the finished image. Okay, so this looks like our finished image. I've had a good look around, I've got rid of all the dust on the snowboard. The only thing that confused me was this extra bit here, but that is part of the logo. Of course, if I'd taken that out, the logo isn't going to look as it should do, so always good to double check things like that. Otherwise, I'm really happy. I'm going to save that now, take that back into Lightroom. And we can have a look at the before and after. So this is the raw, straight out of camera. We can see that the white balance is wrong. I'm looking a little podgy and my face isn't looking great. And then our finished version just looks a lot more polished. And I think this is a good shot that would work well in the magazine. So thank you so much for joining me on this photo shoot. Hopefully it's been a good insight into what I would go through to get a shot like this for our magazine. Please, if you've liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and any comments you have, leave them in the box below, and I will see you next time.